Before we begin, I want you to imagine something. You're on a packed flight at 30,000 feet. The cabin lights are dim. Everyone is exhausted. And then, a baby starts crying. Not the soft whimper kind. The desperate, heart-wrenching, can't catch his breath kind. Now imagine the man sitting beside that baby is a powerful CEO on his way to close the biggest deal of his career, and what he does next leaves the entire flight crew speechless. If stories that restore your faith in humanity matter to you, take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Because sometimes the smallest moments in the sky can change the way we live on the ground. The first cry pierced through the hum of the engines like a crack in glass. Daniel Harper shifted in his first-class seat and glanced at his watch. 9:40 p.m. The red eye from Los Angeles to New York. 7 hours. He had planned to sleep at least 4. Daniel wasn't used to things being out of control. At 38, he was the youngest CEO in his company's history, a fast-growing tech firm valued in the billions. His schedule was engineered down to the minute. Assistants handled details. Silence followed him like a privilege. The second cry was louder. Passengers began exchanging looks. A woman across the aisle sighed dramatically. Someone behind him muttered, "You've got to be kidding me." Daniel closed his eyes and pressed his fingers to his temple. Then he heard a man's voice, soft, tired, almost trembling. "Hey, buddy, it's okay. Daddy's here, I've got you." Daniel turned. 2 rows behind him, in economy, sat a young man who couldn't have been older than 28. His shirt was wrinkled, hair uncombed, dark circles carved under his eyes. In his arms was a tiny baby, maybe 8 months old, face red from crying, fists clenched. The father bounced gently, whispering apologies to everyone around him. "I'm so sorry. He doesn't usually. I think his ears hurt." The baby cried harder. Daniel exhaled sharply and tried to focus on the presentation open on his tablet. Tomorrow morning's meeting could secure a merger that would double the company's global reach. Investors were flying in. Board members were watching closely. If this went wrong, the market would punish them brutally. He needed sleep, but the crying didn't stop. 10 minutes turned into 20. A flight attendant approached the young father with a polite but strained smile. "Sir, can I help you with something? I've tried feeding him, rocking him, I don't know what else to do." The baby's tiny body shook with sobs. Passengers groaned louder now. One man pressed the call button and complained openly. "Can't you move them somewhere?" Daniel felt irritation rise like heat in his chest. Why would someone fly alone with a baby on a red eye? Why wasn't the mother there? Why wasn't the child sedated or prepared? The questions came fast. Judgment came faster. And then something shifted. The baby's cry changed. It wasn't just loud, it was frightened. And Daniel felt something in his chest tighten unexpectedly. A memory. He was 5 years old, standing in an airport terminal, crying into his small hands while his father walked away. Promises of, "I'll visit soon," dissolving into years of silence. He remembered the loneliness, the ache, the way strangers looked at him like he was an inconvenience. Daniel blinked hard and looked again at the young father. The man wasn't careless. He was scared. Daniel stood up. The woman beside him looked startled. "Where are you going?" He didn't answer. He walked past the curtain separating first class from economy. The flight attendant stepped forward instinctively. "Sir, is everything all right?" Daniel nodded. "I think so." He crouched down beside the young father. "Hey," Daniel said gently. "Mind if I try something?" The father looked confused. I don't want to bother anyone." "You're not." The baby cried between them, cheeks wet with tears. Daniel loosened his tie and took a slow breath. "I used to travel a lot with my sister when she was little," he lied softly. In truth, he had no children. But he remembered holding his sister once, years ago, before life pulled them apart. "Sometimes walking helps." The father hesitated, then carefully handed the baby over. The cabin went quiet. Daniel Harper, the polished CEO in an Italian suit, held the screaming baby against his chest. He began walking slowly up and down the aisle. At first, nothing changed. Then he started humming. It wasn't a lullaby. It was an old tune his mother used to sing while washing dishes. He hadn't thought about it in years. The baby's cries softened. Passengers leaned out to watch. The father sat frozen, hands trembling. Daniel continued humming, swaying gently despite the narrow aisle. He spoke softly. "You're okay, little man. Flying's scary the first time. But you're safe." 5 minutes passed. The baby hiccuped. 10 minutes. The crying stopped. Complete silence. The baby's tiny fingers gripped Daniel's shirt as sleep slowly claimed him. The entire cabin exhaled at once. A flight attendant covered her mouth. Oh my! Daniel walked back and carefully placed the sleeping child into his father's arms. The young man's eyes were glossy. I don't know how to thank you. Daniel shook his head. You don't have to. But instead of walking away, he sat in the empty aisle seat beside him. What's his name? Ethan. Daniel nodded. First flight. Yeah, we're moving to New York. I got a job offer. His mom, the man swallowed. She passed away 6 months ago. Car accident. The words hung heavy in the air. I didn't want to turn it down. It's a better life for him. I've never done this alone before. Daniel felt something inside him fracture. Alone. He knew that word too well. What's your name? Daniel asked. Marcus. You're doing fine, Marcus. Marcus laughed weakly. Doesn't feel like it. Daniel looked at the sleeping baby. The fact that you're here trying. That's everything. They talked quietly for the next hour. Marcus shared stories about sleepless nights, learning how to braid tiny wisps of hair, Googling how to treat fevers at 3 a.m., crying in the shower so his son wouldn't see. Daniel listened. For the first time in years, he wasn't the one giving instructions or making decisions. He was just present. Eventually, Marcus said, What do you do? Daniel hesitated. I run a company. Marcus nodded politely, not recognizing the name when Daniel mentioned it. And Daniel realized he liked that. No expectations, no titles, just two men at 30,000 feet trying to figure out life. When Daniel finally returned to first class, something had shifted inside him. He didn't open his presentation. He stared out the window at the endless dark sky. For years, he had chased growth charts, stock prices, interviews. He told himself he was building security, stability, legacy, but he hadn't called his sister in 3 years. He hadn't visited his mother's grave in 5. He had missed birthdays, weddings, moments that didn't come back. And tonight, a baby's cry had cut through the noise of success. The next morning, when the plane landed at JFK, passengers clapped softly, not for the landing, but as Marcus walked down the aisle carrying Ethan. Daniel caught the flight attendant watching him. That was kind of you, she said quietly. Daniel shook his head. It was necessary. At baggage claim, he spotted Marcus struggling with a suitcase and a diaper bag. Without thinking, Daniel stepped forward and grabbed one of the bags. You don't have to. I know. Outside the terminal, a black SUV waited for Daniel. His assistant stood nearby checking her phone. Sir, the board members are already at the hotel. We're cutting it close. Daniel looked at Marcus, who was trying to install a car seat into a taxi while Ethan fussed again. Reschedule the meeting for this afternoon, Daniel said. His assistant blinked. Sir, the investors. We'll wait. He walked over and helped Marcus secure the car seat properly. Marcus looked embarrassed. You're going to be late because of me. Daniel smiled faintly. Some things are more important than being on time. Before they parted, Daniel handed Marcus a business card. If you ever need anything at all, call. Marcus glanced at the card, eyes widening as recognition finally dawned. You're that Daniel Harper. Daniel shrugged. Just Daniel. Months passed. The merger went through, but with a condition. Daniel implemented a new company policy, extended parental leave for single parents. Flexible work hours, on-site childcare at headquarters. Board members resisted at first. It's expensive. It's unnecessary. Daniel held firm. It's human. News outlets called it a bold move. Some shareholders grumbled, but employee retention soared, productivity improved, and something else happened too, loyalty. One afternoon, Daniel received a photo message. Marcus and Ethan, standing in a small New York apartment. Smiling. Text beneath it, we're doing okay. Couldn't have made it through that flight without you. Daniel stared at the picture for a long time. Then he opened his contacts and dialed his sister's number. When she answered, there was a long pause. Danny. His voice broke slightly. Hey, I was thinking, maybe I could visit this weekend. Sometimes the most powerful leadership decision doesn't happen in a boardroom. Sometimes it happens in a cramped airplane aisle, holding a crying child who reminds you what really matters. Success isn't measured in titles. It's measured in who you show up for. That night in the sky, a CEO thought he was losing sleep. But he was actually waking up. And if this story touched you, if it reminded you that compassion is strength and kindness echoes farther than ambition, take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Because stories like this prove that no matter how high we climb, the greatest thing we can build is humanity.